What is up everyone, welcome back to Lex Selectors. Today it is my championship review over last weekend's action. We've also got a couple of midweek games to predict in the second half of the video. Before we get started, this is what the current Lex Selectors Football Prediction League is looking like. James Macy is our new leader in the Lex Selectors Football Prediction League, and a lot of change in the league as well, which is very enthralling to see. Here is what the League One league is looking like as well. A lot of change in that division as well, and I'm really excited to see who could potentially get promoted from that league, maybe onto the main league. And this is what the League 2 league is looking like. We've got a couple of new members entering that league also. If you guys want to get some points in this league, you just simply have to comment your score predictions in the comments down below. It's completely free of charge. It's just a friendly competition. If you guys like what you see, please do give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Let's aim for 15 likes for this video. I think that'll be fantastically appreciated. Please also hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. We're doing very well with subs at the moment. We're trying to push for 1,000 subscribers. We're very close. So if we can get that, it'll be absolutely amazing. And please share the channel to as many people as you can. All of that would really help too. But without any further ado, let's start reviewing what happened in this weekend's championship games. So the first game between Cardiff and Blackburn ended as a 1-0 away victory for Blackburn. I mean, Blackburn just can't stop winning at the moment, and this is really going to help their chances of getting promoted if they can just keep on this winning momentum. They got the best form in the championship, 5 wins out of 6. The only team to make them drop points very recently was actually Huddersfield, which held them to a 0-0 draw in the end. Now Cardiff, they had more chances, they created more, which I did expect. You know, Blackburn, despite being in the position that they are, they're not a team that creates loads and loads of chances. But what Cardiff did, they didn't really look so threatening. It was only really set pieces where they really managed to craft any threat. Blackburn looked very comfortable. They took a pretty early goal from Joe Rothwell, a brilliant solo run from him, and a brilliant strike as well. You can question Cardiff not closing him down there, but it was a brilliant individual play with him, and that was the only goal in the end. A bit of individual quality, almost like a moment in the game, made the difference for Blackburn, and defensively they've looked really good as well. Nyambe did get sent off, I think very harshly. I saw his second yellow card, and I thought the foul he had on Perry NG supposedly was not a foul or even like a yellow card, so I think that was a little bit harsh. He'll be missing Blackburn's midweek game against Hull. Probably a bit of a blow for Blackburn. I've got both of their first choice wing backs unavailable, but I still think with the options that they got and the system that they've got, I think they can manage well with Cardiff. They can't just keep relying on set pieces. If Cardiff just can create a bit more in open play and take chances, then I think for what I can see with Cardiff, with the way how they work, I think Cardiff can eventually be okay. They've got some really important games coming up. And then to an absolutely bonkers game at Kenilworth Road Stadium. Luton 3, Bournemouth 2. This sort of result really typifies the championship. A lot of twists and turns, controversy. It had it all. It was such an enthralling game. Lloyd Kelly got the opening goal for Luton. He actually scored an own goal in the reverse fixture last time, and he did the same thing in this game as well. So Lloyd Kelly was being very unlucky in his moment. You couldn't really do anything about it. Luton had a goal disallowed. Pretty controversially, the goal was given, and it took quite a while for them to disallow the goal. But minutes later, Alan Campbell said, "Stuff that, I'm going to score an even better goal to make it 2-0. It was a brilliant strike, and Travis couldn't quite reach it. But fair play to Bournemouth. They showed a bit of their quality in the second half, and that was what was missing. It was just missing this tenacity, missing this chance creating, because Luton created more chances than what Bournemouth did. Marcondes scored the first goal. Brilliant play, I gotta say, by Jack Stacey, withering in the right hand side and supplying the goal. And then Morgan Rogers, obviously he had a great year last year with Lincoln City. He's at Bournemouth this season, and he was barely on the pitch for a couple of seconds, and he already got a header which made it 2-2. And I thought that might have been slightly fair, although Luton were really rampant. They wanted something from this game. In the final couple of minutes, Travis made 2 brilliant saves, and the goal that eventually went in came from the corner. Bournemouth don't clear it very well. Cal Naismith is not pressed by any Bournemouth player, smashes the shot, and brilliant technique to get in the bottom corner to make it 3-2. It's a crucial win for Luton season, I've got to say, because they've been a bit inconsistent. They had a big absence, so I thought that maybe, you know, they could have lacked that bit of sharpness. But I've got to say, I think the break has actually helped Luton, and it hasn't helped many teams. So Luton could potentially benefit from that. They're in 13th place at the moment, but have got up to 5 games to play in hand, which is quite astounding. With Bournemouth, that's a crucial loss on their part. They could have had a chance to momentarily go top of the table, of course, and for the fact that Fulham have won, and for the fact that Blackburn have now joined on them on points, Bournemouth got to be very, very careful. There's very little margin for error this year. Derby's great escape still lives on as they beat Sheffield United by 2-0, and for the first time this season they are not at the bottom of the Championship, but there are more pressing issues going around with Derby at the moment. On the pitch, they are firing. In terms of games that they've lost, only the top 3 have lost more games than Derby County have had this season. And in terms of goals conceded, only the top 3 have conceded less than what Derby have done. You know, so on paper, Derby have been absolutely incredible in all of the circumstances, but off the field, there's some really pressing matters. The administrator has still not found an owner, and due to the rules of the EFL, you've got to find a substantial buyer and someone who can definitely finance the club, especially in a really good period of time. And when you don't have that for a good period of time, you worry, you know, with the debts that they've got to pay, and unfortunately it just doesn't become financeable anymore. So they've got to find a buyer by the 1st of Feb, otherwise Derby could get liquidated. And I'm pleased by the response that people are really trying to press this issue to the government and hoping that they can resolve this, but I just really hope it's not too little too late. Bolton were on the brink and they were saved, Wigan were on the brink and they were saved, Bury were on the brink and weren't saved. So we just got to hope that enough people support Derby in this situation at the moment. You've got to say fair play to them. And Tom Lawrence scored 2 stunning goals. Sheffield United, for me, really lacked that sharpness, actually. And they were one of the teams, for me, where I think they were affected by not playing enough league football. You know, they, likewise with Luton, have not played league football for over a month due to the postponements. But I think they've been worse off for it. This is what Luton could have been, but they weren't. But Sheffield United just really lacked that intensity. They had 8 shots in the entire game. I mean, I know Derby had 2 shots on target and 2 goals, but in terms of who moved the ball around better, I got to say I think Derby looked a lot better and Sheffield United rarely threatened. One of the biggest questions of this season, is this Fulham side the best side we've ever seen in the Championship? Well, I'm telling you this, they're on course to definitely score the most goals in the Championship. That is 13 goals in 2 games when they beat Bristol City by 6-2. I mean, Bristol City took the lead twice, and I tell you what, my prediction of 3-2 didn't actually look too bad. It looked like it was going to be a very high-scoring game, and I thought Fulham were going to be the team who eventually edged out with it. Bristol City were 5-2 down at half-time, so it was going to be very difficult for Bristol City to get back into this. The worst thing that they could do is to concede even more, and they did again to Neeskens Cabano in the 57th minute, but fair play. After that goal, Bristol City were able to contain them, but I do worry with their defensive work. It's clear to me that they've got the quality going forward when they need to. They've had 5 shots on target against Fulham, which actually, compared to some other teams, is actually quite a fair bit. But defensively, completely poor. I spoke about recently that Bristol City have faced 14 shots per game. I mean, they faced 18 shots in this game, which is above average. So they definitely need to manage the game a lot better and to be a lot more robust at the back, because their defence is really going to let them down and halt their progress. But as with Fulham, they're now on the top of the table, and definitely if they keep these results going, they can definitely be an incredible team this season. We go to the John Smith Stadium where Huddersfield drew against Swansea. It ended as a 1-1 draw, and I actually thought it was a really entertaining game. I saw the highlight reel, and both teams had some really good passages of play at times. Both teams managed to crack over 10 shots. Now, of course, Swansea were having more of the ball. 70% of the possession went in the way of Swansea, which doesn't surprise me. But what Huddersfield were able to do quite a couple of times is that when they dispossessed Swansea, they were left very, very exposed. And pretty similarly, that's how they scored with Sinani getting the first goal of the game. Swansea, for me, since going behind, I think were better. They were much better in holding the ball and actually being dangerous. And what I've noticed with their play as well, they're taking more shots when they're having the ball. One thing I've said about Swansea, they've been a bit complacent. They've not taken enough chances and hold on to the ball too much. They're now starting to actually play a bit quicker and are actually shooting from outside the box and actually getting some really powerful shots as well. I tell you what, Nichols had to make a couple of really, really good saves there. Swansea managed to get the equaliser from Flynn Downs. I think it was deserved in the end with the balance of the play. Swansea, for me, if they play with this style, they definitely will be more of a nuisance to play up against. Difficult to get the ball, but actually creating chances too. That's what they need to do. This is the Swansea side I want to see. with Huddersfield, didn't really manage the game all that well, especially being the home team for me. Huddersfield will still be feeling pride that they've not lost in this game, but maybe a missed opportunity, especially taking the lead and conceding a late goal. We're talking about issues at Derby, but there are some issues at Reading as well, as they continue to live dangerously. They lose 2-1 to Middlesbrough. Now, their goal scorer, Andy Carroll, I don't think is around with them anymore. I think he's played the final couple of days of his contract. He scored a really nice goal, actually, as well, to give Reading the lead. They were completely out of it, Reading. It was against the run of play when they took this lead, but it was a very, very nice goal on his part. Middlesbrough going forward looked very, very dangerous, and actually Reading at the back looked incredibly shaky, and that is definitely going to invite teams to take more chances. If you assert your dominance and look confident, you know, in your position, you could pose quite an intimidating battle with your opposition. But if you show nerves, it's going to only encourage the opposition to really go at you more. And when they went behind, I got to give credit to Middlesbrough. They've been pegged back a couple of times under the Chris Wilder era, but they've always found a way to win in the end. They've relied on late goals. It's the third game in a row they've relied on a late goal. Duncan Watmore, of course, in the 93rd minute against Blackpool, of course, a late win against Mansfield, and another late winner here by Matt Critz, the 95th minute. He scored 2 goals. One of them was a header, and this last goal would be especially disappointing because Reading defensively looked okay despite being shaky. They were actually switched on and organised. In this moment, all the players were switched off. No one won the second ball. Matt Critz got there first. Defender wrong side of him, which made it 2-1, and it's a disappointing result in the end because even a draw would have been really helpful for Reading's season, but it's another defeat. They're fortunate that Peterborough couldn't capitalise on this. They're still in 21st, as with Middlesbrough, and they're now 6th place. And I tell you what, within a couple of games, they could even overtake West Brom by their form at the moment. Millwall's good home run comes to an end as Nottingham Forest win by 1-0. I tell you what, Millwall at home are not normally a team that actually give too many points. I know I predicted Forest to win this game, but very reluctantly I felt, because at home Millwall do tend to have a really strong performance there. And in terms of this game, I mean, it was a very typical mid-table battle. It was very, very close, and you could have argued, you know, what was the point of the game, you know, but there were so many shots. We had 37 shots combined in total with these two teams, and I've got to say, a staggering 24 of those shots came to the away side, Nottingham Forest. They wanted something from this game. Millwall had their chances. I don't think Jed Wallace was available. I think at the moment he's picked up a slight injury, but there could be rumours he could be moving away from Millwall as well, which will be a big blow if they let him go, because I definitely think he's created the most goals this season. Doesn't necessarily mean he's scored the most goals, but he's definitely created the most. Benik Afobe has to have a really important job on his hands, and Afobe went close to scoring so many times, but Samba, to be fair to him, he's pulled off some great performances, and he's pulled another great performance in this game today. Forest had their threat of their own as well, and what I noticed is that Millwall uncharacteristically weren't able to really clear their defence, and they're normally really strong at literally defending and making sure that they boot the ball out, but the amount of times they invited Forest to win the second ball and to have more chances at them, it was going to mentally tire them, and eventually they would give way. And their goal came in from really, really good play, actually. Lewis Graben getting the goal, Zinkernagel managing to get into the box and forcing the save from Bilkowski. Graben finishes the ball into net, and that makes it 1-0. I'll tell you what, Forest can definitely be another team that will be a favourite for the top 6 vacancy. Peterborough missed a big opportunity. They lose 4-1 to Coventry, and I tell you what, it's the first time they've conceded 4 at home this season, Peterborough. And normally at home they're quite okay, but I have noticed when it's time for them to try and get some pressure and to capitalise on things, they have proven to be very unreliable, and it goes to show in this game. Coventry, I mean, they were having a winless run of 7 games, but they didn't show it here. They really needed something in this game. They looked at this game potentially thinking, this is when we restart our season, and they did so. Gustavo Hamer scoring an absolute stunner from 20 yards out. What I will say about Coventry, they just continuously had a threat. They had 22 shots to Peterborough's 9, and Coventry are the away team. So I do think, partly due to Peterborough not creating enough, I think it really helped Coventry. They're now up to 9th, and I tell you what, with the games in hand, they got to capitalise on that, because Coventry can definitely have a chance to be back in the mix in terms of the top 6 race. In terms of Peterborough, they can't afford to keep missing these chances, because we're seeing Reading, a team that's completely shot down of confidence, and if Peterborough don't take those, they're definitely going to be regretting, especially if they do get relegated. The game between Preston and Birmingham ended as a 1-1 draw. It's the first game that Ryan Lowe has dropped points in a league game since being in charge of Preston, but it went to a perfect start. Patrick Bauer took the lead. It was a very scrappy goal, potentially a bit fortunate on Preston's part that it went to the net. Etheridge was in goal for Birmingham, of course Sarkic being injured for the rest of the season, and I thought he did okay in goal actually. I think considering the amount of games he's had to miss, obviously due to COVID last year, and he's had to build up his fitness again, but he's done quite well in this game. Now what I will say, both teams had 16 shots. I think it was very, very close overall. Scott Hogan got a very late goal in the 86th minute. Preston have conceded late goals. Obviously they conceded their late goal in their FA Cup game, and they've done the same thing in that game here. Hogan in the 86th minute, and nothing that anyone could really do about it, but the defending was not great. But what I noticed in the replay, that Bauer was supposed to be the one pinning down Scott Hogan, but when he moved and Hogan made that run, it looked like that he had an injury. And unfortunately, sometimes when you've got a player that's running and can potentially win the header, you've got to shake off your injury and just literally get your body in the way. Preston will be a bit disappointed there in 15th place in the moment, with Birmingham there in 18th place. Both, if they don't win anytime soon, I think both will be rooted in around a mid-table position. Penultimate game sees QPR beating West Brom by 1-0. Charlie Austin scoring against his former club. This is a huge result for QPR, because before this game they were 1 point behind West Brom and they did have a game in hand. This was QPR's chance to really say to West Brom that we are very determined to get promoted, and this almost felt like all or nothing for QPR. If they were to lose this one, they would be up to 4 points behind West Brom, and they definitely would be looking at playoffs rather than automatic promotion. But this game, I think, has really reignited their chances, to be honest. And looking at the stats, it was very, very close, and that's what you want in the game. You want it to be very, very close, but in terms of creating chances, I think QPR had the stronger chances. West Brom, for me, didn't carry much of a threat. And that's very disappointing, especially to a team like West Brom, who should be, on paper, right up there in the Championship with the talented players that they got. QPR kept probing, and you felt that whoever scored first was going to win, which is what I did originally say in my score predictions. And it turns out it was QPR who scored the only goal in the game, the 89th minute, a crucial and devastating time to lose a game, but a crucial time for QPR to score a goal. Charlie Austin with a powerful header makes it 1-0 QPR, and it puts them into 4th place and now 2 points clear of West Brom with a game in hand. That could be very crucial for QPR season, but with West Brom, their form has just continuously been falling apart at the moment. West Brom have not won in their last 4, 2 defeats in 4-2, and following this, they are on 42 points, the same amount of points as Middlesbrough. And right now, they've got to be very careful with the likes of Stoke and Coventry, who have got games in hand over them, because they could definitely close the gap on them. And speaking of Stoke, they responded in a big way by beating Hull by 2-0. Stoke have been a team that have been a little bit worried with their injuries and the depleted squad, but 3 debutants were made in this game today. Tyler Bennis at the back, also with Phil Jagielka, who recently left Derby due to his contract ending, and Lewis Baker being on the pitch, replaced by Wright Phillips as well. And what I like about Stoke, they're using their youth to their advantage now, but they're using their transfers as well. And I think having those quality players in your disposal, it definitely papers over the cracks that they've had in their injuries of Nick Powell and Harry Souttar and so many first team players, especially when you've got that quality. 2 brilliant goals, and Sam Clucas deserves the credit because he has assisted both of those goals. Tom Ince, what a strike he had, and a brilliant cross by Sam Clucas. The second goal especially, I think, could have been avoided in a Hull City's perspective. I think just on the ball, Hull weren't good enough. They kept giving the ball away, they kept inviting Stoke with the chances. 22 shots Stoke had to their 5. And Hull are the home team with only 1 shot on target. It's not a great performance by Hull City whatsoever. They just didn't create enough on the ball. On the ball, they just weren't very strong. Stoke were always winning the second balls. Their press was really, really good. And they were effective going forward on your counter-attack. And I think that's the way that Stoke have got to play, especially with the players that they've got available. As for Hull's sake, they still find themselves in 19th place. But right now, they definitely need to have a response because that was not a great performance. So that's my review of this weekend's Championship games. This is what the table is looking like after this weekend's game. So Fulham and Bournemouth still at the top, but Blackburn joint on points with Bournemouth now. QPR up to 4th. West Brom and Middlesbrough both on 42, but both have to be very, very careful with the teams just below them. You've got the likes of Stoke, Coventry and Forest with games in hand who can definitely capitalise on this. Now in terms of the teams in danger, it's looking like 6 teams now. You've got Hull, Cardiff, Reading outside of the bottom 3, and still the bottom 3 you've got Peterborough for the first time, Derby in 23rd, and Barnsley rooted right at the bottom of the Championship but do have games in hand. For the Lexus Awards, I'm going to put them in a community post and a poll, so make sure you go to my community post and you make your choice for whoever's player of the weekend, goal of the weekend. You get the idea. So you guys can have the say who gets the goal of the weekend and these Lexus Awards for this week. So to end off this video, let's start predicting the midweek games. So we've only got 4 games to predict. We started with Fulham and Birmingham. I mean, this could be any scoreline with Fulham at the moment. Birmingham could be a tougher test to break down considering Bristol City are a team that do face many shots. Birmingham, I do think, are more robust. I'm thinking it's going to be 3-1 Fulham. I think they might be okay in this one. Preston Sheffield United is interesting. This was a classic in reverse fixture. It was a 2-2 draw. I remember the game very, very well. It's tough to predict. I might say a 1-1 draw. Hull and Blackburn. Once again, I think this will be a really, really tough game to predict. Hull could easily respond, and it'll be very typical of Hull if they pull off a shock result here. But considering how good Blackburn have been and how clinical they've been, I think I'll edge them with a 2-1 away victory. And in terms of the other game, Reading and Luton, once again, really could be any scoreline. Reading could get something, but I think Luton are just slightly better at the moment. I think it'll be a pretty quiet game. I think Reading will be determined not to concede many goals. I'm going to go for a 1-0 away victory to Luton. So guys, that will have to wrap it up for my video today. If you guys enjoyed the video, please do make sure you do give the video a like. It's just tremendously help the channel. Please also hit the subscribe button if you've not done so to make a push to 1,000 subscribers. That'd be very much appreciated. And please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. But now I'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw any of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care, everyone.